Welcome back to the channel. We're back on our Spider-Man Commander deck profile with Scorpion, Seething Striker. For 3 and a black, you 3/3 with Death Touch, where at the beginning of your end step, if a creature died this turn, target creature you control connives, meaning that we get to draw a card, discard a card, and get some +1/+1 counters on that creature. We could put those onto Scorpion, we could put them onto one of our other creatures. We're going to tend to put them on Scorpion because people don't want to block a Death Toucher for the most part. So we have plenty of ways to make sure we're sacrificing our own creatures so that we can then make our opponents sacrifice their creatures. We're playing ways just to benefit off of Scorpion's ability, making so everyone just doesn't have many creatures on the board except for that one that'll be conniving for us. That's just a general overview of the deck though. Let's get into it card by card. Starting us off, we have Arcane Signet, allowing us to get Scorpion out potentially like turn 3. He's a 4-mana commander, so helps us out a whole bunch. Astronaut's Altar, our first way to sacrifice our creatures, getting us that additional mana, getting Scorpion out potentially a little bit earlier, or just overall being a good card for a sacrifice outlet. Ballistic Citadel, allowing us to get some stuff off the top of our deck. We need to get creatures on the board in the first place, so this helps us do just that. And then if we manage to connive, we could then start looking at the top of our deck again. Can't cast creatures or sorceries during our opponent's turn, but we could potentially cast instants. Charcoal Diamond for some additional mana. Jet Medallion for some cost reduction. Lightning Grease. Scorpion does have Death Touch, so he's pretty good swinging the turn he comes down. So may as well give him that haste so he can do just that. Mind Stone for some additional mana. Phyrexian Altar, another sacrifice outlet, giving us that mana so we can keep on casting our spells, or just having our one creature turn die, because Scorpion doesn't necessarily care about how many creatures die. He just wants if a creature died this turn, since it has to begin the end step. Smokestack, in order to make sure we're sacrificing a creature every turn in order to get that ability off. Players also have to sacrifice creatures at the beginning of their turns, so benefits us by making us sacrifice our one thing a turn, also making our opponent sacrifice their thing every turn. Soul Ring for that extra mana. And for everyone's favorite commander, Turgid. Whenever an opponent sacrifices a non-token permanent or discards a permanent, you basically get that card as your own. We're not going to look at the other side, because we're here to make sure our opponents are sacrificing their creatures, and we get them in statin. A Cursed Marauder, to make sure we sacrifice a creature. Our opponents do too in the process, but this allows us to connive. A Feral Stone Chosen. Void is a really good ability from Edge of Eternities that helps out with this deck, where as long as like a creature you control died this turn, which we're trying to do, or left the battlefield, but we care about just sacrificing stuff. But you get to have your opponent lose half their life thanks to that Void ability. And since we're having stuff already try to leave the battlefield due to Scorpion's ability, helps us out even more. Braid's Arisen Nightmare, allowing us to sacrifice some creatures, making our opponent sacrifice some stuff, giving us, since it's also the beginning of the end step, Scorpion would have needed to see something else die already. So you don't get to have Scorpion's ability happen, but with how much we're trying to sacrifice stuff, only helps us out. Braid's Cabal Minion, at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player sacrifices an artifact, creature, or land. We'll be sacrificing a creature every turn to get Scorpion's ability off. Butcher of Malakir. Whenever Butcher of Malakir or another creature you control dies, each opponent sacrifices a creature. We're trying to have a creature die every turn, so that's having an opponent's creature die every turn as well. And hopefully we could just outvalue them. Cryptghast for some additional mana. Dark Confidant for that extra draw power. We do lose some life in the process, but overall, tends to be helpful. LG Acolyte, whenever one or more creatures you control deal combat damage to a player, draw a card, lose a life. But his Void ability is what we're here for. At the beginning of your end step, if a non-land permanent left the battlefield this turn, get a 2/2 robot. Just helps us out getting another token on the battlefield, another thing that we can then sacrifice at a later time. This way we could get Scorpion's ability again. Fleshbag Marauder, another creature that will sacrifice on our board, giving us Scorpion's ability, and also removing something on each opponent's board. Merciless Executioner does the same exact thing. Morbid Opportunist, we want to have our creatures getting removed. We only want one per turn, so we may as well do just this, because its ability only happens once per turn anyway, getting us that draw power. Perigi Beckoner, when this creature enters until end of turn, another target creature you control gets +2/+0, and when this creature dies, return to the battlefield tapped under its owner's control. You also can warp this in, being hit this ability twice, but overall, just helpful ability. This way, when our creatures do get sacrificed, we just get them back. Phyrexian Obliterator, potentially removing more of our opponent's stuff in the process. Phyrexian Obliterator, really making our opponents not want to attack us. Whenever a source deals damage to Phyrexian Obliterator, that source's controllers sacrifice to set many permanents. Our opponent could blast them attack us, and they could have to sacrifice 13 things. Or they could just attack us, and we get that in. Plague Crafter, another same as a Curse Marauder effect, making everyone sacrifice stuff, losing our creature for the turn. Rankle, Master of Pranks. When he deals combat damage to a player, choose any number. He has Flying Haste, so it's not hard for him to deal damage. But each player sacrifices a creature. We'll sacrifice Rankle. Everyone else will sacrifice something else. Susarian Voidborn. Whenever this creature, another creature, or artifact you control dies, target opponent loses life, you gain life. Also, with this deck, we have this effect in here just because it's new. Like, you could run Zulaport Cutthroat, you could run your Blood Artist, you could run, like, Massacre Girl. But, you know, I think, like, some of these newer cards, like, it's nice to have, like, a chance to, like, see where they could be run. Sir Conrad, speaking of cards that are in every deck, I just really like Sir Conrad. But yeah, means that when we lose our creatures, our opponents lose their creatures. That's damage all around. Timeline Color, another creature that we wouldn't mind sacrificing because we could just warp it out of our graveyard, sacrifice again, paying that 1 mana, that 2 life, keep on sacrificing, getting that ability. Umbral Caller Zealot, another creature that with that good sacrifice ability, giving us an outlet to sacrifice our creatures so that we could have a creature get removed. And Zodiark Umbral God, whenever a player sacrifices another creature, put a +1/+1 counter on Zodiark. That's any player, that includes us. And each player sacrifices half the non-god creatures they control. Tegra is a god, Zodiark's a god, Scorpion, not a god. So he'll be the one we have to stick around. Black Market, we have our creatures dying, we have our opponent's creatures dying. This will be a lot of mana for us. Corral the Void, since we'll be having our opponents sacrifice their creatures left and right, may as well take them out of their graveyards and do something with them. Dictative Erebos, we're sacrificing our creatures a lot. Our opponents may as well do the same thing. Same thing with Grave Pact. Kai's Ghost Form, way to make sure that when we do sacrifice our creatures, they aren't gone forever. We do lose the counters on a creature that connived, unfortunately, but still, makes us like Scorpion could stick around even if he gets removed. And so there, the Super Void, another Corral the Void type effect, but also we get one of them eventually when someone doesn't have any creatures. Calling the Weak, a good sacrifice outlet, getting us some mana. Dark Ritual, getting us that mana just for free. Oh, sorry, I did not scroll over. Scrolling over to the second half of the deck. We have Dark Ritual for that mana. Deadly Dispute, a way to sacrifice a creature and draw some cards. Feigned Death, we want our creatures getting sacrificed, but we want to make sure they keep on coming back. Feigned Death does just that. Not that it, after all, does that as well. Soldier's Edict, allowing everyone to sacrifice a creature, except us. So just removal for our opponent's stuff. Soul Shatter, only removal for our opponent's stuff, but still helps us out. Supernatural Stamina, way to bring back our creatures when they get removed. Tergrid Shadow, each player sacrifices two creatures, that's us as well. Undying Malice, way to bring back our creatures when they get removed. And Vona's Hunger, each opponent sacrifices a creature. If you had the City's Blessing instead, each opponent sacrifices half their creatures. That's a lot of creatures, that's a lot of creatures getting removed abilities. And then Fel the Profane for some removal. Malakir Rebirth for bringing our creatures back. Susur, Secundi Void Altar for a good sacrifice outlet. Blasphemous Edict for a board wipe. Decode Transmissions for some draw power. And with that Void ability, burning our opponents for a little bit as well. Diabolic Intent, another sacrifice outlet to get our best creatures. Innocent Blood, each player sacrifices a creature, that's us. Killing Wave, for each creature its controller sacrifices unless they pay X. You could just have X be 1. We sacrifice our creatures. Mire and Misery, each opponent sacrifices a creature. We're having everyone sacrifice everything. We like to see it, as you may be able to tell by now. Pox, each player loses dirt of life, dirt of their creatures, dirt of their hand. That's a lot of stuff they're losing. Reanimate, we're removing a lot of our opponent's stuff, may as well bring it back. Sign of Blood for some draw power, Torment of Hailfire. Like I said, with Black Market, we could be getting a lot of mana. This could be a game ender for us. Toxic Deluge for a board wipe, Tragic Trajectory, that Void ability, basically removing one creature for free, and Victimize for that recursion. But overall, Scorpion seems like he's been pretty fun. I may be wrong about the enemy ends up if a creature died this turn. Because it may be like, unless it said one or more creatures, I'd have to look into that. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. Hope you have a great rest of the day.